Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Guess who just walked through the door? Wolf Blass, the great Wolf Blass. How are you, sir?
Yes,
you well?
I'm still around, put it this way. Yeah.
Of course you are.
Has been a great journey from the time of my beginning in Australia. 60 years has been a very wonderful experience.
And an enormously successful experience.
Yes, and I put a lot of money and efforts back again into the industry and to Australia. And the main thing is that the experience what one has gained over these years, they haven't been washed away. Because if you talk about the wine industry is one thing, if you talk about Wolf Blass the man is another, the brand is another issue. One has gone through a lot of problematic issues in Australia in particular since the breakdown of the Chinese situation with the sales of wine, which is not just a problem on its own. It's also a fundamental problem that the Federation has not woken up prior and concentrating 40% of export in one country. Yeah. That's a suicidal issue anyway.
Too many eggs in the one basket.
Yes, I think the issue is it has been a fast buck. Yeah. China has paid 35 to 40% more as any other country, and what the industry has made a big mistake. They ignored the established markets, which were England, America, Ireland, Canada. Yeah. And to get these markets back, once you have lost it commercially, it's almost a big problem.
Did you have much to do with the Chinese?
Not really. The majority of our products went to Canada, Ireland, England, and America, and Asia. 70% of all our products. This issue only came with Treasury Wine Estate. Once Foster's has sold out to Lion Nathan, the new management took over and trying to foster a better share price, which they did gain, ignored every other markets, and moved into China.
Are we better off now? I mean, there were so many little wineries. You weren't ever a little winery. I guess you were in the very beginning, but we had a lot of individuals that seemed to get conglomerated into huge companies. Is that a good thing, or was it an inevitable thing?
I think what the real problem is, I can remember when I came to this country, we had about 60 so-called registered wine companies, smaller individual, but 90% family-orientated. Yes. Now we get about 3,000 registered so-called wine-making little establishments, and you're trying to sit on a board table with companies which are internationally influencing finance. You get public listed companies, you get large private companies, and then you get a huge amount of small boutique wine companies. Yeah. You're trying to sit on a board to make decisions. That's almost impossible because each of them is trying to protect their own interest.
Yeah. How much of an ordeal or a shock or a personal event was it for you to sell your company?
Yes, I think I made every decision very, very well, pretty well organized.
But you're still in it. It's still your company in a sense, isn't it?
No, not really. I dropped out totally once Foster's has moved since Foster's has been acquired and a new company was established in 2018 and 19, then I stepped back.
Yeah. When you went public, I remember John McDonald said, "You've got to buy some shares in this.
Yes, I know. I mean, the good.
And I did.
I know.
And I don't regret it. They were very good shares.
Yeah, I think the whole decisions which I have made is really in the back pounds that I have got nobody to take anything on after me. So that was the reason that all decisions which I made.
What about Anton?
Yes, he is unfortunately not in a very put it this way, in a very healthy condition. He is bipolar.
Oh dear, dear.
So, and my two daughters, they are having an enjoyable time. So for my decisions, becoming a public listed company in 1985 with 50 cents, moved along, built more and more export. The share price went up to $1.20. Then we merged with Mildara. Share price went up to $2.50. And the main thing was, at the time, that every employee and every person in the liquor industry was asked to participate, to buy the shares. I gave them all the opportunity.
Yes.
And those people in our company who didn't have the money, I lent them the money. and then from $2.50, we moved up after 5 years to $5. Yeah. And from $5, then the issue came with Foster's.
Yeah.
We already had the Foster's director on the board. Then it went up to $7, $7.50. Mm-hmm. But one of our partners, which is the whiskey company from Glenfiddich, he wanted an extra 25 cents. It was an interesting situation, and we finished up from 50 cents to $7.75.
Well, I can't remember when I sold. I just, John McDonald would ring me up and say, buy or sell. But yours was the first share I ever bought.
Yeah, yes, but I was the first public listed company too. And John McDonald was the director of the company.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, well, that wouldn't surprise me. He's a very clever businessman.
Yeah, because he was the chartered accountant.
Yes, he was,
of the company, yeah. So, going back at all in this historical situation, that was the beginning of something new. But in the meantime, I was always aware that I'm having a side issue, running my own business on the side.
But you did it. And a lot of it was, I know you're a brilliant winemaker and all of that, but a lot of it was around your personality. I remember the first time I met you was at the Old Lion. Must have been about 1976 or 77.
That's correct. And I think it was our premier, who was it, John?
Bannon?
No. The one before. Was it John Bannon?
I lose track.
John.
It'll come.
Yeah, it comes in a minute.
It'll come.
Now, that was when I won the first Jimmy Watson. That is when.
How many have you won?
4. So that was the issue which was a big celebration, and because of pay, I was a newcomer.
Yes.
Doing these things. Everything what I've done, I did differently from the rest of the industry.
Well, differently. I remember at the Old Lion on that day, that lunch that back in the days when before the fringe benefits tax, when people went to lunch, business people did business over lunch. Hard for the Keating government to recognise, of course. But anyway, you were there and you had a German army helmet on. And you were going around from table to table to introduce people to, I think it was a white wine. I'm not sure which one it was, but you were very keen to get people to try it. Try this white wine, because we all associated you with red wine, not white wine.
Yeah, the first promotional activity, of course, talking about my personality and whatever it happened, when I was with Kaiserstuhl, and that was the reason I came to Australia to make pearl wines.
Oh,
the pearl wine industry actually shifted beer drinkers into a wine drinking
That's
product.
What, like Potpourri Pearl and things like that. Yeah.
That shifted the social status of a hillbilly country from Australia into a more social, and women became part of a social activity.
Yeah.
So the pearl wine made actually the industry what it is today.
Yeah, because it's a slow business, but it would seem, looking back, we have progressed. Perhaps not as fast as the Chinese. When I went to China in 80, just after Tiananmen Square, I can't think when it was, 83 or something like that, and I wanted to get a glass of red wine, and the only thing you could buy was a glass of brandy. That's the only thing they ever sold.
Yes,
That's not so long ago, and now they're the biggest consumers of wine in the whole world, apparently.
Yes, and I think they're going to have there. What must not be forgotten, China has got a big viticultural industry themselves. Yeah. This has come in relationship with the French, which they have got. This has been actually ignored. Their viticultural industry is bigger as Australia, but 75% is what you call it, grapefruit, fruit to eating grapes.
Oh, yes.
But they're turning things around very rapidly now, going even to Mongolia and growing grapes. And they're it's a crazy. I mean, I've been there 3 or 4 times now in China. They're even burying the grapevine during the winter periods and bringing them out again. But of course, this can only be done because of cheap labour. Otherwise, you couldn't do that.
I understand. When you settle down in the evening, maybe with dinner, what do you drink? What is your favourite drink?
My favourite drink is Riesling. Then I'm following it up with some beautiful Cabernet Shiraz Malbec. Yeah. Just before the evening is finished, a glass of whiskey and a cup of tea, and say bye-bye, birdie.
And how do you enjoy life now? I know you probably go to board meetings and all that kind of thing.
Yes, I think socially I'm very much engaged, or I have been as a president in most of the clubs. But on the sporting side, I'm still very strongly interested in horse racing. I'm a long sponsor and an active member of the South Australian Pistol Club.
Yes.
And on the other side, of course, football with Norwood and the Adelaide Crows. I am pretty busy on the what you call it, on my private life. I'm pretty snowed under.
Yeah. Well, you're the kind of person who would always stay busy and engaged.
Yeah.
Have you still got the Rolls Royce?
No, this was a short event which should have never taken place in the first instance.
Why? I thought it was a very suitable car for you to drive.
I never felt comfortable. I felt like sitting in a German fighting tank, I think. And this is how it finished up anyway.
Well, a friend of mine, Gavin Sanford Morgan, he was a traditionalist, and he loved the old Rolls Royces.
Yes.
And the new ones, which are made by BMW, when he saw that, he came up with this wonderful line. He said, you know, it's probably very well made, but it has all the charm of a German troop carrier without any of the practicality.
Yes. I personally feel that we should keep the feet down on the ground.
So what do you drive now?
I still remember the 1957 Volkswagen, which I still have got.
Oh, you really?
Yeah. This is how I started.
A 1957. What colour is it?
Green. A green colour. I converted it from a 1200 cubic centimetre to a 1500 in order to get up to Handel.
Yeah, well, it's got to get up the hill. Yeah. No, the Germans make wonderful, wonderful machinery. I had a Karmann gear. I've never had a Beetle, but they're pulling incredibly good money these days.
Yes, I'm to get up to 70, 80 kilometres is no problems.
No. I've got a little Morris Minor low-light side valve convertible, and it's a tiny little engine. But Gavin he's gone to God now, and I really miss him because he's the only person who understands old cars. He put a supercharger on the engine.
Yeah.
And it really makes a difference. It gets you up the hill.
Now you would have a garage full of them, haven't you?
Well, I have, but I've been collecting for 40 years. It's sort of my superannuation, really.
Yeah, when you're driving these things,
I hardly ever do. You know that?
I do it every Sunday morning. I do that.
That's take it easy.
Out? Yeah, take it for a drive. You have to get the cars going, otherwise.
Well, that's true.
It's like having a boat. If you don't use the boat, it's just a disaster.
Yeah. For all your success, you know, and everything you have touched, it seems to have turned to gold.
70%, 30%, 70% has become bronze.
Well, we won't talk about the bronze, but for all that success, how do you indulge yourself? Such a successful man. What do? You got a yacht or you go on?
I think to me, I love people. I'm very people orientated. Money has never been a gear. Money has never been a motion to me to move forward. It's just part of the business structure. I enjoy life to be just an ordinary man. That's the way I feel more comfortable, instead trying to be somebody which I don't belong to.
Would you like to be starting out again, or would that be terrifying?
I personally feel in the same industry where we are now would be a disaster.
Yeah.
There is no money. There's no money to be made. This is the reality. There will be a lot of liquidations. There will be some more takeovers. How this is going to finishing up, I'm not so quite sure. But at the moment, I would think we get a 25 to 30% surplus cannot be absorbed.
Yeah, well, so what do they do with that? I mean, they used to put it in casks.
This year they just left it on the wines. This is a very sad story.
That's a tragedy.
Yeah, tragedy. But it should have never happened in the first place. I think the industry, or the so-called leadership, which unfortunately we haven't got, they should have advised.
Do they ever come to you, the great Wolf Blass, and say...
I have indicated it very, very strongly at AGMs and at meetings that the way they're handling the issue with export is going to be catastrophic, and I told them this in 2017.
Yeah.
And I was then told to keep my mouth shut, and I think exactly this is what I did.
Well, that's like they bloody hide. I remember when up at McGill Estate, I can remember television cameras went up there to cover it. They had this wine or grapevine pull, and they took out these 100-year-old vines that were grown for red wine. Do you remember that?
Yes, but this particular action was correct, because the wines which we had planted were mostly done for fortified wines, making spirit, making brandy, not table wines. This was a very compensated issue, compensated by the government. This has turned around the industry where we are today, becoming a premium wine-making country.
Yeah.
That was correct. There was nothing wrong with that one. But that is going back now in the 70s you're talking about.
Yeah. When I go into, say, Dan Murphy's, and I look at all the red wine, because I like red wine. I'm not really fond of white so much, but there are thousands and thousands of different brands, as far as the eye can see. It's very confusing. Yes. It used to be simpler when I could just walk in there and buy a bottle of Wolf Blass.
Yeah, the situation is that Woolworths and what you call Dan Murphy, Woolworths and Coles,
big companies,
and the other company called Encounters, they're having their own manufacturing system and generating their own labels. And this is where the confusion is coming on. It looks to the average consumer that this is a wine company independently, but it isn't. It's all coming from different...
Coming out of the same vat, putting different labels on the...
I'm not saying it's coming out of the same vat, but I mean, the brands are definitely being part of the big groups.
Yeah. What's the brand that... Do you still buy Wolf Blass, or do you...
I'm enjoying the Wolf Blass Grey Label Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yes.
I think that's the best priced. This is the best priced red wine in Australia for $40.
What's the difference between the grey label and the black label?
The price. I think.
But you're not going to tell me the wine isn't better.
Yeah, I think if you start paying $150 or the $40, I think it's the maturing process, different oak process. That's the difference between timing and the selection, because each small individual product in hogsheads, 250-liter containers, are developing in a different flavor construction. So it's individually selection out of, say, 200 or 300 or 400 wine barrels. You make the selection and you say, look, this is number one and this is number B. And this is where you're going to get the differences from. And then also wine shows, wine exhibitions are going to prove the point where you're going to put how you're going to categorize your product.
The great Wolf Blass is my very special guest. There's a lot of snobbery involved in wine, isn't there?
It always has been. Always has been, because people believe that if one is being involved in wine selection, in vintage wines, that it is becoming a status on its own. Do you really enjoy drinking and opening some of the wines which you have selected? Talking about what you say, the snobbery. You don't. You're going to have some wine sitting in your wine cellar, and they go from one generation to the other, and you never drink them.
I realised that I promised you a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or something, and you're sitting there without anything in front of you at all. I have let you down.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think there's the great wine man who is writing for the Australian. He just sold his wine selection for $15.5 million.
His wine selection, is it wine collection or a selection?
Yeah, his wine collection. Most of them have been French wines, and the
how much?
15 million.
15 million.
15 million, and it went, and 90% went to Hong Kong.
Good God! And it's just something you consume, and once the bottle is open, of course, it's worthless, isn't it? Well, you're drinking it, so
it's not worth it. You should drink it. Make sure the glass is never empty.
But what do you think? What do you think of that? 15 million for a collection of wine. I mean, does that seem a little bit extraordinary to you?
No, not really. When you start considering that some of the wines you're buying from the chateaus in France, you pay $3,000-4,000 a bottle.
Is it so much better than a $40 bottle of wine here, let alone the $5.50 bottle that I might buy from Dan Murphy's called Soft Red?
It's I think it's a historical issue that the vineyards in the chateau, which Napoleon declared at the time, are not growing. They are the same size they were 100 years ago. They're still the same. This is the reason, because it's the minute production system holding these prices.
No capital gains tax on wine, I gather.
I think the French protecting their own chateaus. I would think so. Yeah.
What did you think of that move to do away with corks and go to the screw top? I never believed that people would do away with the ritual of getting the corkscrew and the whole romantic business of opening the bottle of wine. But it seems to have just gone straight through smoothly. People are buying
100% in Australia, but not necessarily the rest of the world. The Chinese prefer cork. The French have attempted, but it hasn't been. It has been highly successful from an Australian and New Zealand point of view, but it's not successful in America.
Well, I guess...
and synthetic, and then, of course, you have got between the natural cork, you also get a synthetic cork, screw tops and everything else. So it's from a quality point of view, there is no deterioration. It's clear-cut, no oxidization. But it is the image that... You like to pull a cork, it's historically sitting there. Only that we are, in our country, our younger generation is a little bit more forward, as with probably some of the rest of the world.
Well, that sort of ritual thing where the guy will pull the cork and then he'll smell the cork.
Yeah.
Is any of this... real or...
No, I mean, there's definitely a detrimental part on corks. There could be mouldy, and
There's
no doubt about this one. But it depends on the quality. If you pay $1 or $2 per cork, or you're going to get one on the cheap side, this is a difference between the manufacturing.
And when you blend wine and you make wine, as you have for so long, so successfully, are you standing there in a white coat in a lab, and you've got beakers around you, or are you sitting at some splendid table with half a dozen beautiful young women, and you're concocting and creating? How does it work?
I prefer the women.
So would I.
No, the simple reason is if you haven't got a good palate, you shouldn't be in the industry. I mean, it's the same thing if you're going to be a chef or a cook or whatever it is.
But how do you know you've got a good palate?
It's a judgment of other people who are the experts are determining if you're going to be part of it or not part of it.
And if you get it right once, how do you know you're going to get it right in the same way in every bottle that comes along?
In our case, we made over 10,000 awards at national and international wine shows. We're the highest award-winning company in Australia,
10,
probably in the world. So we must, I think, prove the point that we are bloody rattling the judges. So we must be right.
How much did you sell the company for?
The company was sold for, I think, $530 or $540 million.
Wow!
As we started with the 50 cents.
Yeah.
We started with the 50 cents.
Why didn't I keep my shares?
But the situation is yes. But then you start splitting you had to split the situation between you as a shareholders at the same time. So. Money wasn't the issue of anything of this nature. My concentration was suddenly that I could turn off winemaking and concentrated on getting into an investment company, which has been probably my investment company has been more successful.
And how do you invest? What's your favourite formula?
The formula is that I'm the banker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But do you like certain things? Like, do you like high tech, or do you like rural or agricultural?
Industrial. At one stage I was very big in building
construction.
Building warehouses in supermarkets.
Oh yeah.
Supermarkets in Queensland, in Brisbane, Ipswich. Down Cairns and everywhere else. That was a very successful operation, and I remember. I think it was it Mr. Argus? Wasn't he the chairman of Woolworths, and he was also the chairman?
Don Argus?
Yeah.
I know Don Argus.
Yes. He said building these constructions, this is a good idea, but don't get in and running it. Then we start running the place. And I remember flying back from Brisbane with my financial advisor. And I said to him, how many people we got employed? He said 600. And I said, I have made a decision. We're going to sell. Mm-hmm. And I remember what Don Argus said. He said, don't you start becoming competitive against us. Mm-hmm. So we sold the whole business into a Hong Kong company. So that was quite good. I did Mile End in Adelaide.
Oh, Mile End?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a big... well, you mean the whole place?
Yeah.
Good God, I didn't know that.
No, of course you didn't.
I didn't know you were in construction.
I didn't tell you.
No. Well, I haven't seen you for ages.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in so many things. And I'm not talking very much about it. I mean, childcare centres and petrol stations and all these things. I'm doing this because I'm enjoying it.
Yep.
For no other reason.
Oh, well, bless you. I remember I meant to bring this picture that I had of you and Tony de Freitas and myself at the opening of the Wolf Blass room at Deckers.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I know it is.
I think it's a car park now.
I know. And then don't forget, I also took over the Buffalo restaurant.
Of course, the Buffalo. Yes. That was a very clever...
And the council never supported the whole project, which was an historical issue.
Why? I mean,
John, who built the construction, he said, I think I'm pulling out. And he went up to the Barossa Valley, John Gordon. I said, here's the money. I paid him. Yes. I paid him out.
John and Ruth Gordon.
Yeah, Ruth Gordon, yeah. John, of course, his past was a great guy. And Ruth, she's in charity at the moment. She's still alive. Yeah. So you can see certain things have been done. And I sold it because I was under pressure running a public listed company. I said, look, here again, had nobody to run it. And if you run a hospitality business with cash flow, if you're not hands-on, you're in trouble.
Yeah. People confuse cash flow with profit too. But the thing about restaurants is that the good restaurateur makes it look so easy. And I come along and I think, I could do that. That's easy. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. Anyway, it's a great joy to see you again.
Yeah, it's good. And I mean, the biggest thing which I completed is the Wolf Blass Foundation project up in Handorf, the Gallery Museum, which is left. That's a legacy I'm leaving behind. This is now a 12.
You're not going anywhere.
I have got no intention, but I'm not too quite sure what is going to happen. But this is something which Shirley has built. This is a wonderful addition of as a wine center, a wine garden, wine bar, and historical and everything historically about Wolf Blass the man.
Now, where is that? I love Handorf.
In the center of Handorf.
On the main street.
In the main street, it used to be the Bank SA.
Uh-huh.
But they took the ATM machine out.
And
I bought it. And it's been
I always knew you'd buy a bank.
Yeah. It's been reconstructed. The whole thing is it's a wonderful piece.
Yeah. Well, I'll go and look at that. It's called, what have you called it? The Wine Museum?
The wine is called the Gallery Wine Museum Wine Bar. You should go up there one day.
I will. No, I love Handorf. I love going up there on the weekend. I brought down my little visitor's book that I had at the old 5DN for years and years and years. And I don't know how many signatures there are in that, but I've brought it down here so that I can have my guests at the dining room table sign it. I'd be honoured if you would. I think you're probably in there somewhere from years ago.
It was, this Ballerschwager. You see, you talk about Ballerschwager. He was a person who remembered names when you turned up in the restaurant.
Yeah, he was the original owner of Decker's. Yeah,
they were the top restaurateurs. They were these people who connected people with people.
Yes.
These things are unfortunately not more in favour because we're only going to have one or two silver servers left in the state of South Australia.
Yeah.
90% is coffee orientated.
Yes. The idea of a head waiter or a restaurateur, it is a great skill and it's a profession. Yeah. As he always knew how far he could go. Ballerschwager, I mean. Yeah. He used to say when people came in the door, and I was always amazed at how well it was received, he would say, pull yourself off at the bar and feel yourself at home. Yeah. And, he got a few funny looks, but he could get away with anything.
I think he has become a tennis trainer or something like that.
Unfortunately, he died.
Yes, I know. He was very keen at one stage.
Yeah. Played tennis, very active. Yeah. Anyway, God bless you. And I hope whatever you are into at the moment, which is obviously plenty, is enormously successful, as I'm sure it will be.
I will keep going as long as I can and I'll make sure that the family is in a very good order.
Oh, God, yes.
And I maintain the sponsorship as I have been doing. Just now been part of a $20 million development with the South Australian Jockey Club, finished up a successful $60 million project with Handorf.
You got any racehorses?
I got one running tomorrow, a hot favourite.
Hot favourite?
Hot favourite. Unfortunately, can't make any money. The bookmakers are too smart.
What's the horse called?
Wine Baron.
Wine Baron.
Yeah.
Wine Baron.
Up tomorrow in the big cup race day in Murray Bridge. But I'm not going there. I stay home and enjoy the drinks at home without having any problems driving a car.
How are you going to vote in the referendum? You don't have to say. I just heard it.
I can never understand it. I
don't know.
As a migrant coming in, being accepted as an Australian, have done a lot of being a multicultural person, traveled the world 20 times. I cannot understand what it means. I have got lots of friends been associated in Darwin, which have been Aborigines. And I cannot understand what this is all about.
No, I can't understand it either. It's a great country. We're all Australians. We're one country. We should have one flag and one loyalty.
Yeah. And what I can't understand, I think politically, we have got some senators and some parliamentarians. They're Aborigines. They're part of
11
life.
of them.
We are paying a huge amount of money,
yes.
Which we are using the land. I can't understand it. But good luck, whatever the thing is. As far as I'm concerned, I always consider that the Aborigines are part of Australia.
Oh, always, yes, no, absolutely.
I can't understand why there seems to be a question mark.
Why they want to divide themselves away from mainstream Australia. But anyway, we'll all know tomorrow week. Wonderful to see you, as I said. Thank you very much for coming and giving us your valuable time.
Much obliged. Thank you.
All the best. Wolf Blass, ladies and gentlemen.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.